103, 5 Lincoln 102, Lincoln 103 and 102.
Responding to 401 parking structure, section 1 boy.
Henry 8, Henry 9. Respond to gate 437 Bravo for your dignitary detail. 3K 911 unattended, 400 lower level near carousel 4, black bag. GTA in progress, 401 parking structure, section 4 boy.
Responding to 401 parking structure, section 1 boy.
415 passenger onboard aircraft.
Control 2 Franklin en route.
484 suspect, is female, Hispanic, 28 years of age, blue jeans, no further.
Control 5 Frank 401 is en route.
Welcome to this edition of On the Legal Side. Today, we're talking about the legalities and the liabilities of access control and how working as a private security officer really has a lot of liabilities and consequences that we may just not realize. So today we're going to be talking about how allowing someone into a building, a property, or an area that really should not be there could put you in a very awkward and even legal situation this week on the legal side. When you are working at a campus, an office building, a complex, a residential area, some type of business environment, a hospital, whatever it might be, access control is a key and vital aspect to your duties. Whether you are a private security officer or you are a off-duty law enforcement officer, working security, a public safety officer for a school, a college, university, you have a lot of responsibility when it comes to providing access control. Now, access control comes into a number of different categories, a number of different areas. A lot of times we hear that phrase, access control, we may begin thinking about a guard shack, a gate, or maybe unlocking a door. But it's a lot more than that. Access control. Giving access to an area, a property, an office, some unauthorized location that only certain people should have access to. Whether that's allowing someone through a gate or a checkpoint or an access control area, or unlocking a door to allow someone into an office or a building, or we're out at a concert or a special event and we do a haphazard job at allowing the right people, the authorized people, into that event or area, what consequences, what liabilities, what legal recourse could we be facing? I understand that sometimes it is difficult to really determine whether or not an individual has the right to be someplace. And it can sometimes be difficult to reach out to a company representative, a company supervisor, or even a security manager to find out what to do. Do I let them in? Do I not let them in? Do I lock them out? Do I make them stand here and wait for someone to get here to say, oh yeah, he's okay, you can let him through? It brings my memory back to a security contract that I had in Alabama a number of years ago. We had a very large, one of the largest apartment complexes that I've ever seen, any place. And we're talking about thousands of people, residents living here. Thousands. Multiple access points, multiple gates. And we had gate control officers. We had patrol officers. But during the evening rush hour especially, or weekends sometimes, you are standing at the checkpoint, the access control, and you are monitoring for vehicles coming in to identify them if they are residents. And you do that by looking for a little sticker that's supposed to be on the windshield and sometimes a hanging tag off the mirror. And you're looking for this to identify, okay, they are a resident. But does this really mean, number one, that they are a resident? Could this be a former resident who still has the sticker or the mirror tag? We don't know. But if we see that, we assume that they live there and that's authorization enough, and so we let them through. But standing there at rush hour as people are coming home from work, and you have a line literally backing up, this is worse than Chick-fil-A that has around and around double lines at most Chick-fil-A's. So you have this huge, overwhelming sense of just flagging people through, just allowing them through, just get them off the road, especially in this particular property, because guess where that backup was? It was actually outside on a major road, and a whole lane of that travel portion of the road would be blocked, sometimes for, a half a block or more. And they're trying to get into their complex. So as you're looking for that sticker or that mirror tag, and then you spot those that don't have them, you have to stop, identify that person, see if they are a tenant, ask for identification, check your list of tenants, check your list of apartments, while others are all backed up behind them, getting frustrated, even at times beeping horns, and even little hand gesture now and then, and verbalizing their disgust, disappointment, anger. So here you are, trying to provide access control to this large apartment complex. What do? Do you just, at this time, wave everyone through? It was, fortunately for us, that we had everything in writing. All of the policies of the apartment complex, all of the property management policies. We knew all of the laws of the state. So we understood what the owners of the property, the management company, wanted. Not what we wanted. Remember, we're not there to make up the law or the rules. We're there to enforce them and to follow our clients' requirements. And if we don't follow their requirements, we're in breach of contract. Now, that may not really mean a whole lot to you, and maybe you don't care, but you should, because then you're out of a job if they cancel that contract. So here we are. We're trying to do the best we can. We have to pull people over. We have to pull them out of the line to identify them. Just recently in Florida, a security officer at a gated community in the evening time had to deal with a family, a husband and wife who had a small child in the vehicle. They had a different vehicle, did not have any sticker on it that said that they were tenants. They gave the security officer their driver's license after requested, but they were angry because he had to go through certain verification processes to see whether or not they truly were residents, and they got upset. They assaulted him. It's all on video. It's on the internet. And they were arrested. But here it was, the security officer just trying to perform his duties on access control. Do you know that every year hundreds and probably thousands of security officers are assaulted on this very subject, access control, either denying access control or calling the police because these people won't cooperate. This is a sticky subject to some property owners because they don't want to cost too much. They don't want to rock the boat too much. They don't want to cause too much of a problem for true tenants or employees of the business, and yet they want to maintain some level of security. Otherwise, they wouldn't have you there. So what do you do when you have that type of situation? Either traffic is backing up and you can't verify everyone is a tenant of the property or even an employee. I've worked at federal locations where they had a strict no verification, no entry, period. I don't care if you're the commander of the military base. You don't identify, we can't identify, forget it. You're not coming in, period. And so if you're in an installation, some type of company that has very strict access control policies, you have to enforce those. And you have to know when to step it up a notch, when to get a little bit more verbal, when to get a little bit more aggressive if they try to force their way in, when to call for backup. It's not an easy situation. We're coming right back. You're listening to On the Legal Side today.
I met Luke when I was pretty much born. We kind of just grew up together. He got his license when he was 16. We were going to the beach, and Luke was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and all of a sudden, I don't remember anything. I wasn't conscious for it. We got hit by a drunk driver. I feel like I knew right away that it was never going to be the same. I don't know. The doctors, they were telling me I was so lucky to be alive. When I found out that he died on impact, I didn't really feel lucky. And sometimes I still don't. Drinking and driving is completely unnecessary, and I think it's selfish if you do it. It's not worth taking that risk, because you never know what's going to happen.
What am I doing lying in this casket? Oh yeah, that's right. I'm dead. I got shot. I'm not supposed to be dead. I'm only 17. And now I can't see my 18th birthday because I'm a fatal victim of gun violence. My friends, my family, my own mother was devastated. Can't see her son anymore because of gun violence. And everyone's here at the funeral. But before they lay me to rest, there's just one last thing I have to do. How many more of us have to die from gun violence? Let's put a stop to this, because if we don't, the next time it could be your child lying in this casket.
Brought to you by Man Up Inc. USA, a proud member of the Gun Violence Awareness Movement.
Whether you're providing access control to a gated community or at a gatehouse where visitors and employees and all who enter are supposed to check in, identify, or if you're on foot patrol of a hospital or a school and your duties are general patrol, obviously you're also going to provide some level of access control. Knowing what the protocols and procedures of that property is going to dictate exactly what your job and responsibilities are and who you cannot allow in to a certain area. To overlook the responsibility and the trust put into you is not only a liability issue for your company, but it could result in even more serious consequences for you, the security officer. How do you know what's expected of you? Well, if you're talking about static security, your post, your assignment should have some type of post orders, policies, and clear guidelines. And if it doesn't, you need to quickly get those. Otherwise, you could be on the hook for making the wrong decision, even though you were not instructed or guided or told anything specific. It is important when you are providing access control to an area, a room at a hospital, a property, and an apartment, that you get certain things before you allow access. Moments ago, I told you about this security officer in Florida who was assaulted because a husband and wife was trying to enter. They were residents, but they did not have a resident sticker on their vehicle, and they were uncooperative in identifying themselves. What would have happened if the security officer had just flagged them through? All right, yeah, no problem, you can go on. And they turned out to be burglars. They turned out to be people who assaulted or injured another tenant. What would have happened to the security company? What liability would they face? Could the security officer himself face some type of criminal charge? You see, there's all sorts of consequences for doing the wrong thing, even when you don't know better. I'm sure you've heard that phrase, well, ignorance to the law, there's no excuse. Same thing for the job of a security officer, a public safety officer, a campus officer, a private police officer, or even a public law enforcement officer. If you don't know the job, then you need to find out what it is. If you don't know the job description, if you don't know the rules, if you don't know what it is that you're supposed to do, you need to get that information so that you can do your job properly. Otherwise, don't do the job. What should you do if you don't know? Call a manager. Call a supervisor. Make sure you have people's cell phone numbers. Everyone has a cell phone these days. Make sure you have not only one supervisor's phone number, but 2, 3. Contact someone. Get their okay to do thus and so. Get their permission. Get their insight as to what should be done before you make that decision that could wrongly, affect you and present you with consequences that not necessarily was intentional, but certainly it was done wrong. What are the consequences that we face for our actions? These days, listening to a lot of the public, there's no consequences. Nobody wants to be at fault. Nobody wants to take responsibility. But when you're wearing a uniform and a badge, and when you're in charge of a property, when you're the officer, when you're that authoritative person on a site, you have to take responsibility. You have to know what you're doing. We talk about in the use of force continuum that command presence is the first level of use of force. Well, the same thing here. When you're providing a service, when you are being put out there as that person in charge, you have to take command. And you can't take command if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know what the rules are, if you don't know who you're supposed to let in where. A number of years ago, quite a few years ago, a rape occurred at a hospital. A person that was unauthorized to come in after hours. He was not there to go to the ER. He did not have a medical situation, but he was able to talk the security officer into allowing him into the building. And later that evening, in the overnight hours, he raped sexually assaulted a hospital employee. Who's responsible for that? Yes, the suspect, but who else is responsible? The security officer. He did a poor job at verifying who that person was. He did not do his job, and ultimately that caused someone to be attacked. What is the liability for his employer? The employer faces civil liability and can be sued for a substantial amount of money. What are the consequences for the security officer? Besides losing his job, he can also be sued. But more than that, when we do the wrong thing, or we don't even take the time to see what the right thing is, or we don't even attempt to figure out what should I do in this situation, we just go ahead and nonchalantly wave them on through, or wave them in, or just ignore really what is the proper procedure, then that speaks volumes for us. It tells everyone that this employee is not conscientious. He's not responsible. He's not trustworthy. He's doesn't care. He's worthless. He shouldn't be here. We're paying someone to do a job, but they're not doing it. So why have them here? And if you get that reputation, and trust me, it doesn't take long to get that reputation, then you're not going to get a job not only in the security industry, law enforcement, or public safety, or anything similarly related, but also in other types of positions. People don't want, as an employer myself, people don't want irresponsible people. Employers don't want employees who won't take the job serious and do their job the way that it's meant to be done, and not even take a moment, not even consider, hey, I don't know what to do. I don't know. I don't think they told me what to do. Maybe I don't remember. I don't know, but I'm going to call somebody. I'm going to find out. If you can't even do that, how can you be trusted in any position? We'll be right back. You're listening to On the Legal Side.
Without this woman, my father couldn't have had his hip replaced.
Without these people, I'd be dead.
This man helped my son through leukemia.
Do something amazing. Give blood.
It's a very simple thing. It only takes 2 seconds. We all know we should do it. We all say we do it. But do we? About 35,000 people were killed in motor vehicle accidents last year. More than half were not wearing a seatbelt. A brother, a father, a mother, a best friend. Is it worth it? I lost a sister. Don't let it happen to you and your family. Tell the people you love to buckle up.
So far, we have talked about the consequences of access control, doing it improperly or a poor job, or even when we're doing our best and it's just not good enough. We can get people upset. We can get clients upset. We can even lose a security contract because of too many complaints, not getting people through the gates quickly enough, employees trying to check in, clock in at work, and we're not able to get them screened fast enough. Apartment, condominium dwellers, not able to get them through the security checkpoints quick enough, and traffic backing onto the streets. We've talked about all of that. There are some consequences, even when we do the job correctly. But let's talk now about a very big problem that we've seen for the last, quite a few years actually, and that is security officers giving access to those who are not supposed to be there, and sometimes doing so as a co-conspirator to a crime. Security officers have a lot of authority, and they also have the run of the facility, the business, the property, oftentimes when no one's there. And they also have access control to many of the high security areas, whether that be pharmacies, drugs, identification, computer systems, so on and so forth. And unfortunately, quite often, and when I say quite often, I don't mean every blue moon, but maybe 2 or 3 times a month, we see security officers that give access to people to commit crimes. They become co-conspirators almost instantly because they conspired with a third party to allow them to come in and do whatever it is that they're going to do. We have seen armored truck employees just in the last month and a half or 2 months, 3 different times involved in fake armored truck robberies, giving access to their co-conspirators to commit these set-up fraudulent bad robberies, even in one case in Mobile, Alabama, firing guns in the middle of the day in a shopping center, very dangerous. We've seen security officers give access to businesses. Last year in Florida, security officer allowed someone that he knew into a high security area for the purpose of stealing identities. We've seen security officers allow people into warehouses and distribution centers where they have literally packed U-Haul trucks full of property stolen while the security officer kept watch. Now we're not talking about bad access control. We're not talking about bad employee. We're not talking about civil liabilities. Now we are talking about criminal. And in some cases, not only felonies, but federal offenses. Any property that's stolen, taken over state lines, instantly becomes a federal case. Transporting stolen goods across state lines is a felony and a federal offense. Lying to federal agents, whether that be NCIS, the FBI, ATF, DEA, it's a federal offense. You're going to go to prison, federal prison, and you're going to serve day for day for day. No good time there. You're going to have to serve that 2, 3, 5, 10-year sentence for every day. Security officer, you have a position of trust. You have a position that someone, your company, and the client has given to you because they believe not only will you do a good job, but that you're trustworthy, that you're honest, ethical, moral. And then all of a sudden, you're not. And you turn around and allow people access into secured areas, whether that be a building, a property, someplace where they're just not supposed to be. That's a criminal offense that's going to probably wind you up into a prison sentence, and you're not going to get out. You're not going to get out. I don't know how many times that security officers get caught after the event because one of 2 things. Either their partners in crime gave them up or law enforcement broke them down during the investigations. You let them in after, 8, 10, 15 hours of interrogation. A lot of people break. And if it's not going to be you, it'll definitely be your partners. Access control. Doing a bad job, that's one thing. Allowing others to gain illegal access for the purpose of committing a crime, that's a criminal offense. As a security company owner, I'm telling you what, that's one of our fears. I know that many security company owners listen to our radio shows. I know that supervisors, managers, frontline management staff listen to our shows. And so I'm telling you now, the problem with not having supervisors doing routine checks on the property and surprise visits is that security officers pretty much know no one's coming. No one's watching. They can do whatever they want, whether that's sleep on the job or, play games on their computer or allow their friends to come in and steal or rob or whatever else they have up their sleeve. Recently in Louisiana, security officer allowed several people that he knew to come into the casino during the overnight hours and commit a robbery. Well, guess what? Crimes at a casino is a federal offense. Guess where that security officer and co-conspirators are? They're in federal prison. It is unfortunate that security officers give in. They don't see the responsibility. They don't see the seriousness of their position because, well, oftentimes they're not paid that great, and they feel, well, they don't pay me. They're going to get what they pay me. I'm only going to put in $7, $10 for the work, and I got to feed my family. I got to pay my bills. If that means I steal a little bit here and there, if that means I let Joe, my friend, in steal a little bit, that's the way it goes. Pay me more and I won't do it. That's a terrible philosophy, a terrible way to look at it. Working in retail security, loss prevention for many, many years, that was exactly how many employees felt when they underrang the merchandise for their family and friends, when they put extra stuff in the bag and never rung it up, when they stole money from the register. It's like, well, this is just paying me now what I'm worth. No, it's a crime, a felony. Could get you more than a little time in prison, and definitely in federal prison if it's a federal offense. Understand that when we are securing property, when we are providing access control of any type, we're 100% responsible for not only our own actions, but what happens on the property because of us not doing our job properly or allowing others to have access where they're not supposed to be. This week, from the legal side, we've talked about the ins and outs, the ups and downs of access control. It is one of those vital duties that most security officers have on almost every job site. Every assignment, apartments, marinas, industrial sites, warehouses, distribution centers, offices, military sites, and the list goes on and on and on. Remember, you will pay the consequence, whether that be just a loss of a job or a reprimand or an arrest. Smart. Act ethically, legally, responsibly. Thanks for joining us on this edition of From the Legal Side, and we're gonna be back in 2 weeks with another episode. But until then, be safe, be blessed. We'll see you back here on the radio.